Let's take a look at an amazing cartoon joint rig that I learned from Johnny Gordon. It's really amazing how it works, and you can get some really nice results. I'm going to focus just on the arm because it's a really good place to use it, but it could be used for any of the joints. And let's just take a quick look at what we have. Normally, whenever I set up an area that's going to bend like a knee or a joint, I like the rule of three. I like the segment that is the loop that's going to be where the bend takes place, and then I like a segment on either side that's going to hold the geometry so that when we go to, this is just be a rough idea of what happens. When we go and rotate, this segment is going to hold this geometry and this segment is going to hold that geometry. Now, that's what I normally do, but Johnny came up with this setup that's really nice. If you take these, I'm just going to get rid of that middle segment. So I'm going to come over to Construct, Reduce, More, Bang Glue. And I'm just going to use two segments. And then I'm going to set up a quick morph target for those rows. So I'm going to come over to M, New, and I'm just going to call this elbow, not elbow, elbow, create. I'm going to take this row of points and I'm going to move it all the way over here. And I'm going to take this row of points and I'm going to move it all the way over here. Okay. So I've got my base with the segments in the center, and I have my morph with the segments spread out. Okay, we're pretty much ready to go. I'm going to save and send it over to layout. Okay, I'm going to go into the top view, zoom in. Now, whenever I'm rigging, I like to go to Object, Properties. The first thing we need to do is set the subdivision order to last. We want it to subdivide it to polygons after the bones have deformed, have displaced the geometry. I'm going to set my subpatch level to 1. This is just for rigging, and go to front face, just so I can see where the joint is and things like that. So under the Setup tab, I'm going to go to Draw Bones, and I'm just going to draw the upper arm, and I'll just go ahead and do one big bone because I'm really just focusing on the joint here, okay, where the bend is going to take place. And that works. I'm going to turn Bone X-ray on. Let's go to Perspective. Let's go back to Texture, Object, Properties, set the display back to 3. I set it to 2 just because it's easier to see where I'm placing things. I can actually see the segments. I'm going to go turn the bones on, and let's get a good view of this. I'm just going to, on frame 10, I'm going to rotate this, something like that. So we get a somewhat of an elbow bend. It's got a curve to it, but we can control the shape of this elbow with that morph target. So I'm going to go over to, I need to select the object, Object, Properties, Deform, Add Displacement, Morph Mixer. Double click to open that up. I'm just going to size this down, and I'm going to apply, I'm just going to use the mini slider. Actually, I'm going to move this over here so that we can kind of watch it as we slide. So I'm going to start applying the morph, and now I'm getting a much more curvy shape on my bend. So it's a little bit more like a Dr. Seuss arm. And I can go real crazy with it like this, or I can go into the negative, and now I'm tightening up that elbow. Okay, so I can have the same character doing different poses where sometimes you want that hard elbow, and then other times you want it to be a little looser and get real cartoony. And the fact that it's just one morph that controls this is really nice. Now, again, if you don't want to have this big window up open to control this, all we really need to do, I'm going to go ahead and close this down, is come over to Object, Properties, Geometry, Add Custom Object. We'll go to Sliders. I'm going to double click, come over to the arm, go over to the Morph Group, double click, add it to the list, continue, close, move over to modify, sliders, and I can move this up in the way. See, it's transparent over the interface, and it allows me, and if I want, I can close that up. Animating my arm, and I go up. I need to tighten that up a little bit, so I'll just... Okay, now, right now I've got it in, from 0 to 100, so I need to go to Object, Properties, Sliders, and for this group, I need to set a range, and I'm going to set the range from -50 to 100. Okay, so that I can come past 0, because that's how I'm going to get that really sharp angle with only using 2 segments. Okay, so I can come here, and later on I can always make it loose. So that's just a really quick look at this cartoon joint rig that I picked up from Johnny Gordon, and I love it. I've used it on a couple projects, and it's so easy to set up, and the payoff is there. It looks great, and it works good. So there you go.